There's a reason you're listening to this right now. A reason your breath just caught in your chest, or maybe released in a slow, quiet sigh of recognition. A reason you feel this profound and weary exhaustion that has nothing to do with sleep and everything to do with the soul. This is about the psychology of people who are tired of existing psychology fix, that specific, heavy fatigue that makes the mere act of continuing feel like a monumental task, where the alarm clock in the morning isn't a call to a new day, but a signal for another performance you don't have the energy to give, where the chatter of the world feels like static, and your own thoughts have become a record on a loop, playing the same worn-out melodies of what's the point and I just can't do this anymore. And tonight, in this quiet space, we're not going to offer you cheap platitudes or tell you to just think positively. No, we're going to do something far more radical. We're going to expose the very architecture of this feeling, to trace its blueprints in the dark corners of your mind, to understand not just that you feel this way, but why your own psyche has seemingly turned against you, constructing a prison where the walls are made of memory and the bars are forged from future fears. You've felt this before, haven't you? That specific weight. Pause just for a moment. Don't fight it. Just notice it. Where does it live in your body? In the slump of your shoulders? The dull ache behind your eyes? The hollow in your chest? Acknowledge its presence without judgment, because this is the first step to understanding its purpose. Let's go deeper. This isn't a flaw in your character. It's a predictable, albeit painful, psychological pattern. A defense mechanism that has outlived its usefulness. A fortress you built to survive a past storm that now just keeps you in the dark. And to the weary mind, the quiet gloom of the fortress can feel safer than the terrifying, unpredictable brightness of the outside world. The world where joy is possible, but so is fresh pain. Where connection is offered, but so is rejection. And so the mind, in its twisted, protective logic, chooses the gray safety of the fortress over the vibrant danger of the open field. What no one tells you is that this feeling of being tired of existing is often not a desire for non-existence. Not truly, but a desperate, screaming need for the current version of your existence to end, for the old skin of your life to be shed, for the heavy, ill-fitting identity you've been carrying to finally be laid to rest. It is the soul's way of going on strike, refusing to participate in a system that no longer serves it, a system you may have built yourself, brick by painful brick based on expectations, old wounds, and stories that were never yours to carry. I want you to think of Leo, a graphic designer in his late 30s, who sat at his desk every day for 2 years feeling like he was slowly being erased. His work, once a passion, had become a series of meaningless clicks. His relationships felt like scripted performances, and his future looked like a long, straight road disappearing into a fog. And every morning he'd wake up with that same leaden feeling, not of sadness but of utter depletion, as if his internal battery had been shipped from the factory with a fatal defect, and he'd force himself through the motions, his smile a stiff mask, his laughter a hollow sound that startled even him, and at night he'd lie in bed, not thinking of ending his life, but desperately wishing it would just stop. Like a record player someone would finally lift the needle from, granting him silence, because the music had become so unbearably monotonous. You're starting to see it now. This is the invisible wound, the deep psychic fatigue that comes from a life lived in misalignment, where your daily actions are no longer connected to any deeper meaning or sense of self, where you have become a ghost in your own life, haunting the halls of a past you can't change and a future you can't envision. But here's the truth your mind doesn't want you to grasp yet. This exhaustion is a signal, not a sentence. It is a sophisticated, if brutal, internal alarm system designed to get your attention, to force you to stop and reevaluate everything you thought you knew about yourself and your place in the world. It is the death rattle of an outdated self, and the only way out is to listen to it, to lean into its uncomfortable message, to dare to ask what it is so desperately trying to protect you from, or what it is so fervently trying to push you toward. Pause. Notice what that just revealed. What is one tiny, seemingly insignificant part of your day that makes you feel that specific, weary heaviness? Is it checking a certain email? A particular commute? A recurring thought? Just identify it. Don't try to change it yet. Just see it. This is the foundation of our work tonight. The mind creates this pattern of existential fatigue as a final, desperate firewall against what it perceives as a greater threat, the threat of hope. Let that settle. Hope, to a psyche that has been deeply hurt, disappointed, or betrayed, is not a beautiful thing. It is a dangerous, unpredictable force. Hope opens you up to the possibility of failure, of rejection, of another devastating letdown. After a series of these, the promotion you didn't get, the relationship that shattered, the dream that crumbled to dust, the mind learns that hope is a precursor to pain. And so it does the only logical thing it can to protect you. It systematically dismantles your capacity for it. It tells you stories like, "Why try? You'll only fail." Or "Don't get your hopes up, you know how this ends." And it paints the future in shades of gray to make sure you never again risk the searing pain of a bright hope being extinguished. This is the great tragic irony. Your mind would rather you be numb and safe than alive and in danger. It chooses a quiet despair over a roaring pain. It makes you tired of existing, because a vibrant existence is simply too volatile, too full of unpredictable emotional weather. You feel it making sense already, don't you? That part of you that flinches when a good thing happens, that waits for the other shoe to drop, that instinctively downplays excitement. That is the firewall in action, the ancient, overprotective guardian of your heart, that believes its only job is to prevent you from feeling hurt ever again, even if the cost is feeling nothing at all. Let's go deeper into the hidden emotional triggers, the specific landmines buried in the soil of your daily life that detonate this feeling of weariness without you even realizing it. The first is the trigger of invisible labor. This is the immense, unseen cognitive and emotional load you carry, the remembering of birthdays, the managing of household tasks, the constant anticipation of others' needs, the suppressing of your own emotions to keep the peace, the endless mental to-do list that never gets a check mark. This labor receives no applause, no recognition, and because it's invisible, it feels endless and unrewarding, draining your energy reserves in a slow, constant leak. The second is the trigger of narrative disruption. This is when the story you've been telling yourself about your life, "I'm on a path to success. My family is my rock. I am a good person," shatters against an unforeseen event, a job loss, a betrayal, a personal failure. The narrative breaks, and without a story to tether yourself to, you feel untethered from reality itself, floating in a meaningless space where your actions seem to have no coherent purpose. The third, and perhaps the most insidious, is the trigger of authenticity famine. This is a deep, gnawing hunger for a genuine expression of your true self in a world that often rewards conformity. It's the feeling that the you present at work, to your family, even to your friends, is a carefully constructed replica, and the real you is locked away in a soundproof room, screaming to be let out but growing hoarse from the effort. Every time you laugh at a joke you don't find funny, agree with an opinion you don't share, or hide a part of yourself you fear will be rejected. You feed this famine and your soul grows a little weaker, a little more tired. Pause. Ask yourself this now. Which of these three triggers resonates most violently within you? Is it the endless invisible labor, the shattered story, or the starvation for authenticity? Just let the answer surface. Don't force it. There are no wrong answers here, only clues. Now let me tell you about Sarah, a teacher who loved her students but found herself crying in her car every afternoon, not from sadness, but from a bottomless well of exhaustion. She was a single mother, and her life was a meticulously organized spreadsheet of responsibilities, a relentless relay race where she was the only runner, passing the baton to herself, and the trigger was the invisible labor. She was managing lesson plans, grocery lists, pediatrician appointments, her son's emotional needs, her aging parents' expectations, and her own forgotten dreams. And no one ever saw it. No one ever said, "I see the immense weight you are carrying." And this unseen burden made her feel like a ghost, performing tasks in a world that looked straight through her. And the weariness was a direct result of her spirit being stretched so thin it was becoming transparent. This is what we must weaponize against the fatigue. Not fight, but understanding. Not resistance, but redirection. Our first weapon is the reclamation of your attention. Your attention is the most valuable real estate you own, and it has been hijacked by the past and the future, by regret and anxiety, leaving the present moment, the only place where life is actually happening, barren and deserted. Step 1. Recognize the trigger. This is the moment you feel the wave of weariness coming on. It might be a tightening in your stomach when you look at your calendar, a sudden mental fog when a certain thought arises, a desire to just scroll mindlessly on your phone to numb out. Catch it as early as you can. Name it. There it is. The heaviness. Step 2. Reframe the story. Instead of the old narrative, "I am so tired of this," which is a global, overwhelming statement, you reframe it to a specific, manageable observation. My mind is offering me a feeling of weariness in this specific moment, likely to protect me from something. This creates a tiny sliver of space between you and the feeling, turning you from the victim of the storm into the observer of the weather. Step 3. Replace the pattern. This is where you perform a micro-action to ground yourself firmly in the present. Feel your feet flat on the floor. Notice 5 things you can see in the room around you. Listen to the most distant sound you can hear. This isn't about making the feeling go away. It's about reminding your nervous system that you are here. Now in this body and in this present moment, you are physically safe. You are not being chased by a saber-toothed tiger. You are sitting in a room breathing. This simple act reclaims a fragment of your attention from the anxious future or the depressive past and plants it firmly in the now. Pausing, do that now. Just for 10 seconds. Feel your feet on the floor. Name 3 things you can see. You've just taken back a piece of your own mind. That is a revolutionary act. Our second weapon is the rewriting of your internal narrative. The stories you tell yourself about your life are not facts. They are interpretations, and many of them were written by a younger, more vulnerable version of you who was just trying to make sense of a confusing world. These stories have become the silent soundtrack to your existence, and when they are stories of helplessness, defectiveness, or inevitability, they drain the very life from you. Step 1. Recognize the trigger. Listen for the key phrases of the old tired story. Nothing ever works out for me. I always mess things up. This is just who I am. It's too late for me. Catch these sentences as they run through your mind. See them for what they are, worn-out recordings, not sacred truths. Step 2, reframe the story. Take the global permanent statement and challenge it. Nothing ever works out for me becomes several important things haven't worked out the way I hoped. And that has been painful, but it is not the entirety of my experience. This is just who I am becomes this is a pattern I have learned, and patterns can be unlearned. You are not erasing the past. You are editing its meaning, shifting it from a life sentence to a single chapter. Step 3, replace the pattern. Actively write a new, more compassionate and accurate sentence. It must be believable. Don't jump from I'm a failure to I'm a roaring success. That's too big a leap for the mind to accept. Instead, try I am someone who is learning how to navigate failure, or my worth is not determined by my outcomes. Write this new sentence down. Say it out loud. Your mind believes what you tell it repeatedly, and it's been listening to the old critical story on a loop for years. It's time to change the station. But here's the truth about this work. It feels absurd at first. It feels like lying. Your mind will rebel. Do it anyway. The feeling of authenticity will follow the action, not precede it. Let's go deeper with our third weapon, the cultivation of deliberate awe. Awe is the antidote to existential fatigue. It is the emotion we feel when we encounter something vast that transcends our current understanding of the world. And in that moment, our personal concerns, our ruminations, our small tired stories are swept away in the face of something magnificent. Awe shrinks the ego and connects you to something larger than yourself. Step 1, recognize the trigger. This is the feeling of being trapped in the mundane, the repetitive, the small. It's the sense that your world has shrunk to the size of your problems. You feel closed in, claustrophobic in your own life. Step 2, reframe the story. The story here is my life is small and insignificant. Reframe it to I have temporarily lost my connection to the vastness and mystery of being alive. This shifts the blame from your entire existence to a temporary state of perception, a state that can be changed. Step 3, replace the pattern. Go on a 5-minute awe hunt. This is non-negotiable. It doesn't require a trip to the Grand Canyon. Look at the intricate pattern of veins on a leaf. Watch a time-lapse video of a galaxy spinning in space. Listen to a piece of music that gives you chills. Stare at the complex architecture of a snowflake. Really study the face of someone you love, noticing the incredible, unique arrangement of their features. In that moment of awe, your personal narrative of weariness is interrupted. You are reminded that you are part of a mysterious, breathtaking, and vast universe, and for a few precious seconds, you are too busy marveling to be tired. Pause. Notice what that just revealed. What is one tiny thing that could inspire a flicker of awe in you right now? The texture of the wall, the sound of your own heartbeat? Find it. This is how you drain the power from the fatigue. Now I want you to meet Alex, who worked in a high-rise office and felt like a drone in a hive. His life a beige-colored monotony, and his trigger was the authenticity famine. He wore a suit that felt like a costume, spoke in corporate jargon that felt like a foreign language, and laughed at his boss's jokes that weren't funny. And every evening, he would collapse on his sofa, not tired from work, but tired from the sheer effort of pretending to be someone he wasn't. And the thought of doing it for another 30 years made him want to simply vanish. His turning point came not from a dramatic quit-your-job moment, but from a small, deliberate act of awe and authenticity. On his lunch break, he started walking to a nearby park and, feeling foolish at first, he would simply stare at a single massive oak tree, observing its gnarled branches, its resilient presence. the way it had weathered countless storms, and in that daily act of awe, he found a sliver of his true self, the part that was quiet, observant and resilient, and he started to bring that small, real piece of himself back into the office, speaking a little less but more truthfully, choosing his words with more care, and slowly the beige world began to gain color, not because the world changed, but because he had rediscovered a genuine fragment of himself and allowed it to exist. You're starting to see it now. The way out is not a single grand explosion, but a series of these quiet, deliberate rebellions. Our fourth and final weapon is the embodiment of purpose through micro-actions. Purpose is not a giant preordained destiny you have to find. It is a quality you bring to your actions. It is the sense that what you are doing matters, even in a small way, to you or to someone else. The fatigue thrives in the vacuum of perceived meaninglessness. Step 1. Recognize the trigger. This is the feeling of pointlessness, the why bother, that echoes through your mind when faced with a task, a social obligation, or even a hobby you once loved. It's the sense that your actions are just drops in an infinite ocean, making no difference. Step 2. Reframe the story. The story is nothing I do matters. Reframe it to, my actions create ripples, and I may not be able to see all the effects they have, or, more powerfully, this action matters to me because it aligns with my values. Value-driven action is immune to the virus of existential fatigue. Step 3. Replace the pattern. Commit to one tiny purpose-driven action each day that is entirely for you. It must be so small that it feels almost trivial. It's not about achieving a result. It's about affirming your agency. Organize one drawer. Send a text to a friend just to say you're thinking of them. Write one paragraph in a journal. Cook a meal with care and attention. In that small action, you are not a passive victim of a tired existence. You are an active force, a creator, a person who makes things happen. You are, in a tangible way, building a life you don't need to be tired of. One tiny, deliberate brick at a time. This is how you end the psychology of people who are tired of existing pattern to night, not by magically erasing the feeling, but by systematically disarming its power source and rebuilding your inner world from a place of agency and attention. Pause, ask yourself this now. What is one micro-action you could take tomorrow that would feel like a quiet act of rebellion against the fatigue? It doesn't have to be big. It just has to be yours. The integration of these 4 weapons, reclaiming your attention, rewriting your narrative, cultivating awe, and embodying purpose, is where the alchemy happens. This is not a linear process. It is a dance. Some days you will only manage to feel your feet on the floor. Other days you will feel a surge of purpose and rewrite an entire chapter of your story. The goal is not perfection. Say it is progression. It is the slow, steady turning of a massive ship. At first, the turn is imperceptible. You still feel stuck in the same ocean, but with consistent small adjustments of the rudder, your daily practices, the ship begins to turn, and eventually, you find yourself heading toward a new horizon, one you couldn't even see from your old vantage point. You feel it making sense already, the pieces clicking into place. This fatigue was never your enemy. It was a misguided guide, trying to lead you away from pain and toward a state of safety that ultimately felt like death. Your job is not to kill the guide, but to retrain it, to show it that you are now strong enough to handle the uncertainty of being truly, vibrantly alive. That hope, while risky, is the very engine of a meaningful existence. Let me leave you with one final story about Maya, who had experienced so much loss in her life that she had decided, quite consciously, to stop feeling anything at all. She was tired of existing because existence meant love, and love meant loss, and the math was simple. No love, no loss, no pain. She built a life of impeccable routine and solitude, a life that was safe, clean, and utterly colorless, until her neighbor, an elderly man, asked her if she could water his plants while he was in the hospital for a week. It was a tiny, meaningless request, a micro-action. But she agreed, and each day she would enter his apartment, filled with lush green growing things, and she would carefully water them, noticing the new leaves, the subtle changes, and one day a small vibrant orchid bloomed, a splash of brilliant purple in the silent apartment. And as she stood there, looking at that defiant, beautiful flower, she felt it. A crack in the fortress wall, a sliver of awe, and in that moment, the story she had told herself for a decade, "It is safer to feel nothing," reframed itself into a new, terrifying, and thrilling question. What if it is more dangerous to never feel anything again? That orchid didn't change her life. Her willingness to notice it did. That is the secret. The psychology of people who are tired of existing psychology fix is not a pill or a single revelation. It is this daily, courageous practice of showing up for the tiny moments, of reclaiming your attention from the ghosts of the past and the anxieties of the future, of rewriting the cruel stories with a more compassionate pen, of seeking out awe in the cracks of the mundane, and of performing small, purpose-filled actions that whisper to your soul, "We are still here, and we are building something." The road out of this weariness is paved with these small intentional stones. It won't always be easy. There will be days the old fatigue washes over you like a tide, and on those days, your only task is to feel your feet on the floor, to breathe, and to remember that the tide always recedes. You are not broken. You are not defective. You are a human being who has been using a survival map that no longer matches the territory. Tonight we have begun the work of drawing a new map, one that leads not to the gray fortress, but to the open, unpredictable, and breathtakingly beautiful field of your own life. It's time to step outside. You are ready. You've always been ready.